Do they put sugar in embalming fluid? You know what I was just thinking? Yesterday as I was going grocery shopping for all the things that I'm going to be needing for today, because I guess the sugar opened, I was going through the checkout and I told her not to worry about it. I'm going to take it. It's fine. It's just going to go straight into the container. And the lady was asking me, what do you do when you put it into the container? How do you keep it from getting hard? I said, I've never really had an issue with white sugar getting hard, but brown sugar, I put a piece of bread on the inside to keep it moist. She's like, so then what do you do when the bread gets moldy? You just take it out? I said, no. Usually it gets hard and you just replace it with a new piece of bread. And she was like, oh. And it just got me thinking, because, you know, sugar is considered a preservative. Do they put sugar in embalming fluid? Is that a weird thing to think? Let me know. I'm curious to know. I'm not even going to look it up on Google. I want you guys to tell me. Anyway, I know I'm not even ready for the day. It's 6:17 in the morning. This isn't the video that I have planned for the week. I was actually going to go out shopping. I was going to buy a bunch of stuff and I was going to do a food prep kind of video. Well, I was surprised with not one, but two cake requests. I'm an at-home baker. I call them requests because I do not charge. I charge for ingredients only. Cost of inflation is really up there right now, so making cake is pretty expensive. It's a lot more expensive than it used to be, and it's really hard to explain that to people because a lot of times they don't understand. It's just flour, sugar, milk, butter, whatever. It's just standard staple ingredients, but they don't understand everything else that goes in with it. Anyway, I am gonna protect myself because I don't want to get my workout clothes dirty. This is gonna take me 2 days. So today I'm gonna be making the cakes, I'm gonna be making the buttercream, and I'm gonna be trying Swiss meringue buttercream this time. I'm gonna make fondant out of marshmallows. Tomorrow I'm gonna be doing all the decorating. I really don't have a whole lot of time to put this together. Whenever I do a cake for someone, I always like to film it so that my friend, whoever I'm doing the cake for, can watch it. So I want to make sure that they get to see the magic happen when they give me a last minute request, okay? Whenever someone makes a request for a cake, make sure they give you 2 to 3 weeks notice, people. You need notice. But thankfully, I have some magic skills and I can do this in 2 days. Oh, but one thing before I get started. Please take a minute, 1 second, 2 seconds, 10 seconds. Can you please do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe here if you're new, if you like content like this. I mean, after all, you did click on this video for a reason, right? And if you do end up liking this video, please comment down emoji, whether it's a cake, a diamond, a teddy bear, a sunflower, I don't care. That would really help out the algorithm and help me out. Thank you so much. Okay, so I've already gathered up all of my supplies so that it's easy for me to get going. Nothing fancy. I am making this by hand. I am not using my standing mixer. That's the beauty about this cake recipe, is that it is so simple and so easy. I love Pioneer Woman. She's amazing, and all you need is flour, sugar, baking soda. I use margarine, not butter. This is for my buttercream later. I use margarine. It just works out better on propane. You need eggs, buttermilk. You can use the powdered kind, but they didn't have any at my store up in town, so I'm using liquid buttermilk, but powder is better. I also have cocoa, salt. This, you don't really need it, but I wanted to do it for convenience. Pretty easy recipe. I am making 4 batches of cake here. So we're gonna do 2 batches at a time. I'm only gonna show you the first batch. So this is a double batch. You could cut this recipe in half. So you want 4 cups of flour. You also need 4 cups of sugar. You also want to sift your sugar so you have all of that extra sugar at the bottom. It won't hurt to have that in your cake, but personally, if it doesn't fit through the strainer, toss it. 2 teaspoons of salt. Set it aside. I need 4 sticks of butter in here. or margarine. Save your butter wrappers, you're gonna need it for later. 1, 2, 3, 4. I would say you're gonna melt your butter for about 90 seconds. You do not have to worry about your butter being completely melted because you're gonna put it back in the microwave in just a second. I'm gonna be putting 8 tablespoons of cocoa in here, and this one I will use a 2 tablespoons, so make it easier. So 4 of these. And there is no precise measurement for cocoa, however chocolatey you want it to be. You're gonna mix this up and you're gonna throw it back into the microwave for about a minute. And this is how it should be looking like. If it's a little bit thicker than this, that's even better, but I'm just gonna go with it because if you do it for too long, it will burn. I'm gonna toss it into my flour and sugar mixture. And if you have OCD like me, make sure to get everything off that bowl. Make it look like it was licked off. Okay, maybe not licked off, but that's pretty damn close. You don't wanna overmix it here, you just wanna get it incorporated in a little bit just to give it some time to cool down so that when you add your egg mixture, it doesn't curdle because of the heat. Okay, that's good enough. I'm gonna do about 1.5 cups of buttermilk. And into this, I'm gonna put 4 eggs. Oh, I forgot the vanilla. Be right back. Okay, so today I'm using the Watkins vanilla, baking vanilla. This one is pure vanilla extract and it's like a gourmet one. It's supposed to be extra rich, but use any vanilla you like. So about 3 teaspoons. You're also gonna wanna put in your baking soda. You're gonna need 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Okay, you're gonna give this a mix. And you wanna get all of those eggs fully whipped up because like I said, you're doing this by hand. You're not using a mixer. My mixer broke. I don't have one, so I'm doing it all by hand. And don't be surprised if your buttermilk starts to rise. That's the activation of the baking soda. Just work quickly. Don't let it sit too long. If you didn't have buttermilk, you could also use regular milk and either add a tablespoon of lemon juice or a tablespoon of vinegar. That would work just as well. I've been doing this with all of my cakes lately. I'm just using some instant chocolate pudding mix. I don't know, this just helps with the texture of the cake. You could put 2 to 3 tablespoons. I'm putting 3. And then you're gonna add your egg mixture. See how it bubbled up there? You're gonna add your egg mixture all at once, and you're gonna mix this up by hand. Being very careful in the beginning not to spill anything out of your bowl because if you have OCD like me, that's a big no-no. We're gonna take our bowl that we put our egg mixture in and we're gonna put about 1 cup of water in here and we're gonna microwave it for about 90 seconds. Why do we put boiling water into the cake? I don't know. I'm assuming that it's because they want all of the ingredients to be completely dissolved, but I really don't know. So I don't add the whole thing in at once. I do it a little bit at a time because I personally don't like the batter being too thin. I want it to be thick, but not too thick. So I use the water as a guide and I only put as much in as I see fit. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. If you wanted it to be a little bit more thin, you could, but I personally like it on the thicker side. And for this recipe, I am going to be using an 11 by 15 pan because this, John! Oh, I'm gonna be cutting this cake into a 3-layer cake. I'm not exactly sure on the exact measurements yet. Okay, so I'm gonna coat it really well, and then I'm gonna use these. You don't have to, but I personally just prefer using these. Damn, I wish I had one more. It's all right. If you wanted to, you could use wax paper, but I mainly want them on the edges anyway. And then we're gonna put our cake batter, the whole entire thing. This is, did I say it's 11 by 15? Yeah, it's 11 by 15. And a whole double batch is gonna fit in here. Okay, and to get some of those air bubbles out, you're gonna tap the pan. Okay, that's enough. You don't want to do it too much, otherwise it could ruin your cake. I'm also going to be using flour nails, and since this is such a big cake, I'm going to use 2 of them, and you're just going to lightly flour them. You don't really need to flour them too much. I'm going to put 1 on this side and 1 on this side. And I'm going to bake it at 350 for unknown time. I just go until my nose tells me that it's almost done, and then I just check it as time goes by. I want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and since that cake is going to take me about 45 minutes to an hour to bake up, might as well get some other things done. I am making a double batch. I probably don't even need this much, but having leftovers is always amazing. So I got 2 packages of mini marshmallows. This is the 16-ounce bag. 2 packages of powdered sugar. This is 2 pounds each. I'm also going to be using some shortening, imitation vanilla. I don't need anything fancy for this, and I'm going to be using a little bit of butter extract as well. Optional, you don't need it. So in goes my mini marshmallows, and I'm gonna pour in about 1/2 cup of water. If you don't put water in, your fondant will be extremely dry, so this is important. Do not skip this step. I'm gonna go ahead and add in 2 teaspoons or 2 cupfuls of this imitation vanilla here. And this shouldn't change the color of your fondant, but if you want to use clearer extract, go ahead. I'm going to put 2 cupfuls of this vanilla. Like I said, this is completely optional. Vanilla. Butter. This just gives a little bit of extra butter flavor. Actually, I'm probably going to go in with 3 cups. Because normally I would put butter in here, but since I want my fondant to be a little stiff, I'm going to be using shortening instead. So I'm going to put about 3 to 4 tablespoons in here. So I'm going to put 2 little handfuls or 2 teaspoons of salt. And I'm going to microwave this for about 2 minutes. Okay, so my marshmallows are just starting to melt. My shortening is not even began to melt yet, because shortening does have a really high heat tolerance. So we are going to be putting this back into the microwave, but I want to give it a good toss. It sure does smell delicious. If your marshmallows are looking kind of dry by the time this is done, add a little bit more water, but we'll check that later. I'm going to put this back in the microwave for another minute. Hello! She's looking pretty. I can already tell that this is going to need more time. The marshmallows are still not fully dissolved, but looks can be deceiving. That's why you give it a stir. But I do think I'm going to be adding in just a touch more water. Yeah, my marshmallows are not completely dissolved yet. So I'm going to put this back in there for about 20 seconds. All right. Well, all of my marshmallows are not dissolved, but good enough. You will be working it with the powdered sugar anyway. So you can do this in an electric mixer, and actually it is a lot easier to do that way, but I don't want to have to keep continuously cleaning my standing mixer. So I'm going to be using some elbow grease to really mix this in. So I'm going to start off with 1 bag of powdered sugar, and I'm just going to incorporate it with my spatula. At this point, it shouldn't be too hard to mix in. So that one is in. I'm going to use about 1/2 of this bag. Okay, at this point, it's going to get a little difficult because it's going to start to cool down. So just be patient with it and just mix it in as best as you can in the bowl. Okay, now I'm going to dump all of my rest of my powdered sugar. You want it to cover the bottom so that your marshmallows don't stick to your counter space. Okay, now I'm just going to get a good amount of this shortening, and I'm going to spread it all over my hands. This is going to help the fondant from sticking to your hands. And I'm just going to start working in all of this powdered sugar. I finally found some gloves that fit my hand, and I get mine from the Dollar Tree. Okay, so we're gonna get some black in here just to make it kind of like a dark gray. If it feels a little dry, just add a little bit of shortening to your hand. It'll help it from sticking to your hand as well. Yep, it smells really good. And it is done, son.
It is. You just tested it.
Be very, very quiet.
Interesting way. And good thing that wraps. It sticks on.
Yep.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Whoa.
Cool magic trick, huh?
Yeah.
All right, let's go get this in the freezer.
Okay. Let's go.
It's 9 o'clock now, and so far I've got almost all the cakes baked up. I have the last batch in the oven. I figured I'm gonna go ahead and make the Swiss meringue buttercream. So this right here is 2 pounds worth of butter. We need 6 large egg whites. Actually, we're doing a double batch, so we need 12 egg whites, 4 cups of sugar, and vanilla. I think that this is not going to be enough for a 7-inch square cake and a 2-tiered, so I think after this I'm going to have to make a single batch of Swiss meringue. First, what I'm going to do is get my 12 egg whites into this bowl right here while my water on the stove is boiling. For these egg whites, you have to make sure that you get absolutely no yolk in there, otherwise this will not work. If you don't like the idea of throwing away your egg yolks, just buy egg whites in a carton. Okay, so the recipe that I'm using called Live for Cake, I'll try to link it down below for you. Like I said, this is a double batch, so it says to place your egg whites and your sugar into a bowl of your standing mixer, but I'm just going to put it into this bowl and then transfer it into my standing mixer once I'm done here. So I need to put 4 cups of sugar in here, and it says to mix this mixture until it's no longer grainy, and it should reach the temperature of 160 on a candy thermometer. I don't have a candy thermometer. I'm just going to do this by touch. And make sure that your bowl is not touching the bottom of the water or the top of the water. You want your bowl to be hovering over the water. So I'm just going to continue doing this until the sugar is no longer grainy. And when you go to touch it, you can't feel the sugar in between your fingers. It still has a little bit of grainy to it, but I do have a meat thermometer and it was up to 160, so I'm just going to shut it off. And it was kind of rising up, so I think that it was going to start to overcook. So yeah, I'm definitely taking it off. So now I'm just going to put it into my standing mixer. Okay, it says to specifically use your whisk attachment, and you're going to whisk this on medium-high for 5 to 10 minutes until the meringue is stiff and cooled and the bowl is no longer warm to the touch. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, about 4. I want it to 4. That looks so good. Okay, so now it says To switch to the paddle attachment, it says optional. I'm going to. Wow, look at that.
Wow.
That's good. Now it says to slowly add in your cubed butter and mix until smooth. Doesn't say how high. Then it says add your flavorings as desired, whip until smooth. Okay, so I don't think that I did it perfectly. I think I kind of rushed through, but it doesn't look bad. And I tasted it and it's really good. It's kind of buttery. It's not too sweet, but it has a sweetness to it. And it looks like it can work, but here's what I'm gonna do. And I do this with all of my buttercream is I have some instant pudding here. This is just vanilla flavor. Usually I use the sugar-free, but today I'm using regular. And I'm gonna start off with 2 tablespoons. And I'm gonna see if this will help thicken it up, and it's also gonna add some extra vanilla flavor. Okay, so it's still kind of soft. It's not like getting stiff or thick. So I'm gonna add in a cup of powdered sugar. Also, it is really buttery. It doesn't have a whole lot of sweetness to it, so I'm hoping that this is gonna add just a tad bit of sweetness. Nope, does not look right. No matter what I do, I've had it whipping for like a long time, and I put frozen vegetables underneath it to cool it down, and it's still not like buttercream. So I have one more thing that I'm gonna try to salvage this buttercream. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I got 1 cup of butter or 4 sticks of butter in here, and I'm gonna act like I'm making regular buttercream. So I'm gonna whip this up really good. And then I'm gonna add in the whole thing of powdered sugar, 1 whole bag. And I'm not gonna add any water. Okay, so then now I'm gonna start adding in scoops of my Swiss meringue. And this is a little grainy right now because it has the vanilla pudding mix in it. But as it sits overnight, it's gonna dissolve. So I'm just gonna place this in here in place of my water. Okay, so it doesn't taste like my buttercream, and it doesn't taste like a Swiss meringue buttercream, but it is possible. And at this point, I don't have any more time to waste, so I'm just gonna have to go with it. I still have all of this Swiss meringue buttercream, so I'm gonna do this one more time, just so that I have enough for both cakes. Okay, so here's my final thoughts about this buttercream. I honestly don't think that it came out that bad. I mean, it stays on the spoon really well. It is sturdy, but it's just too whipped for me. It's like too whipped creamy. And maybe this is how Swiss meringue buttercream is supposed to look and taste. But to me, it's just really rich and buttered flavor. It's so buttery that it leaves like an oil slick on your tongue, and I don't like that. So I don't know if I did the recipe right or not. To be honest with you, I just don't know. Being that this was my first time and I didn't really know what to look for, I didn't realize when I was looking back at the footage how soft the meringue was. But when you look on the Pinterest picture, it's supposed to be so stiff that you could stand it upright. So that might explain the reason why my icing never whipped up to a thick consistency like it needed to. But it's your call. You could try out the recipe for yourself. I will link that one down below, and you guys let me know. You guys be the judge, and you tell me if I made a mistake, if this is not how it's supposed to look, or if I did it right and that's exactly how it's supposed to taste. All this is simple syrup. It's just 1 part water, 1 part sugar, so 1 cup of each, and then I microwaved it for 3 minutes. I like to put it into a squeeze bottle because this is easier for me to drizzle it onto the cake. You could also use a brush, but then you're gonna get crumbs of cake inside of your simple syrup, and then it won't last as long. It'll expire a lot faster. So we kind of need to speed through this process, otherwise this is going to take me forever long. And I'm not going to show you how I iced every single cake, but this one in particular I wanted to show you because I am essentially carving this cake. So first what I did was I cut off the edges, especially like the dry parts, and then I took a piece of cardboard that's cut into a 7-inch square and I cut 3 pieces. Technically I cut 4 pieces, but the middle piece is going to be glued together to make one layer. So this was a 3-layered 7-inch cake, and I am a terrible carver, but I normally don't do this where I cut the tops off. I actually prefer to leave the tops. I feel like that's the most moistest part of the cake, but in order for this cake to be as square as possible, I made sure to level them off. It wasn't perfectly symmetrical, so it's not a 7-inch square in diameter all the way around, but I did my best and it came out looking pretty good. And there has been a lot of controversy on whether or not you should use simple syrup. I personally don't always use it. My cakes don't need it, but it is a security blanket because if you are going to be making cakes in advance, sometimes your cakes can take 3 to 4 days. Now, I did do this in 2 days, so technically I didn't really need the simple syrup, but I do like to use it from time to time just because it does add a little bit of extra freshness to your cake and keeps it fresher longer. You also have to understand that if there's leftovers, sometimes the cake is going to be sitting in the refrigerator for a while and people are going to eat off of it for like up to a week. So you want it to stay tasting fresh for as long as possible, and don't worry about it ruining the texture of your cake. It's not going to, I promise. If anything, it might give you a fudgier or fluffier texture for any cake flavor, including vanilla. Believe it or not, whether you like the idea of using simple syrup, if you've ever ordered from a home baker, and I'm pretty sure that they even do this at regular bakeries too. So chances are you've tasted a cake that has simple syrup in it and you didn't even know. One thing that I forgot to mention is that I prefer to keep my cakes in the freezer overnight once they're baked, and I like to do them while they're hot. This locks in all of the moisture, which is probably why I decided to go with the simple syrup, because I was only able to put these in the freezer for a couple of hours. So they weren't frozen like I prefer, but they were all the way cooled down and it wasn't too hard to work with. I was able to pull it off, so it can be done, but when I'm not in a rush, I prefer to have my cakes done the night before so that they're partially frozen when I'm stacking and icing them. I was going to wait to ice them the next day, but I'm so glad that I didn't. This actually took me 2 hours to do all 3 cakes. And the only tip I can give you as far as icing this square cake is to take your time and just kind of like zone out, and just know that this is going to be a very repetitive process until you get that cake into as sharp of a square as possible, and just make sure you build up those corners so that they don't droop down. And I'm just going to quickly let you know that over the course of 2 hours while the cakes were cooling, magically this icing went from soft to stiff. So I really dodged a bullet there, and this icing came through for me. And there they are, my beautiful, beautiful cakes. So this is my 6 and my 8-inch tier, and then my 7-inch square. They will be sitting in here overnight to get nice and cold and chilled so that I can decorate them tomorrow. You just set it right there. Right here. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm so glad that last night or yesterday I decided to ice them, because that took 2 hours off my time, especially since I woke up at 5 o'clock and I got started around 5:30 or so. And so for the last hour and a half, I've been working on my edible images that I'm going to be using as cake toppers for these cakes. So for my Dodgers / Mickey Mouse or Disney theme, I created 3 pictures that I'm going to be transferring onto some fondant to kind of like give them a 3D effect. And then I also created a Tetris logo, but with her name, and the Roman numeral stands for 50. So she wanted the tile, the Tetris tile, to be in the L shape for 50. So that's what I did. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get started, and I'm hoping to have these ready by 1 p.m. I have my cake board here. I'm using a 9-inch square, and the reason why I went with square is because it's so much easier to make a square cake board or cake base. And then I cover it with black vinyl paper from the Dollar Tree. I feel like it works the best, and I just tape it down. This is not considered food safe, so that's why I have my cake sitting on a board itself, so it's not sitting directly on here. So to glue it, I'm gonna put down some buttercream. So I have a dowel rod here that I bought from Walmart. I sharpened it with a sharpener, and then I have some bubble straws for support. I'm not worried about having too much space around the board. I just want it to fit on the board. So I'm gonna set you guys on cruise control and let you guys just see how it's done. It's really fairly simple. so smoothly. I love the way that came out, and I still have about 3 hours, so I'm gonna just keep on going. So I've decided that this right here is just not gonna be enough to cover the entire 7.5 to 8 inch square. So I'm gonna mix the two grays together, and then I'm gonna make a smaller amount of a lighter gray. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'll see you guys back here to finish up cake number 2. Okay, so I was a little disappointed because the gray came out a good color, but when I tried to make a lighter gray, it wasn't really that much of a difference, but it still worked out. So in order for me to get the tiles squared, I just used the same board and I cut it to fit each side. It does come off short, but you can use a rolling pin to stretch it out, or even like a fondant smoother to help bring it to the edges. And then of course, like I had mentioned earlier, this is not a fully symmetrical 7-inch square. It's actually like 5.5 on the sides and 7 on the top. So I used my ruler to cut each side to size. Okay, so to make my tiles, I was thinking about using this piece of paper, cutting them out individually, and then creating shapes like that, like as a template. But I kind of feel like they're just a little bit too small. So I had actually forgotten that I had these. This is the smallest squares that I have though. If they were just a tad bit smaller, I think it would be better. But I think it's gonna work with this cake. So I took the grid and I looked at it, and I think that I can make it work. So I'm gonna use this to cut out all of my colors for all of my tiles, and then we're gonna start building our tiles onto the sides of our cake. Okay, so the only problem that I encountered is that I don't have enough colors. I only made 5, but I need 7. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mix pink with blue to make purple, and then I'm gonna do pink with yellow to make like an orange color. Okay, so this cake is going to be fairly simple. I am going to create borders around the cake, and then I'm going to put my tiles as if I were playing the game on each side. And then I have the topper with her name on it. So let's see how long this takes. It's 11:40 or 10:45. Let's see how long it takes me to finish this cake up. it's finished. So with these ones, I had some extra scraps of edible image paper. So I cut them out and I glued the tiles to them, and then I used floral wire to connect them, that way they didn't bend. And then I used a toothpick to connect them to the cake. They just really wanted a couple of pieces on the top coming off the top of the cake as well. So for my Tetris cake, this is my inspiration picture. I didn't intend for it to look almost exactly like it, but I did switch it up by changing the topper. I kind of wish that I would have made it standing up instead of laying flat, but she loved it no matter what, and I thought that it was clever. The second one, it also came out very close to the picture, but we added the Mickey Mouse because his two favorite things was Dodgers and Disney, so they wanted me to incorporate both, and they absolutely adored this cake. And actually this one is my favorite, even though Tetris is my favorite 80s game of all time. I really love how this one came out. It's nearly flawless, and I couldn't have had a better time. If this cake was not enough for you guys and you need more Dodgers theme inspiration, you're in luck. I do have a video here on YouTube that I created a few years ago. I did cookies and cake pops, and this video turned out really well. Everyone seemed to love them, so maybe you might too. So I will dig deep to find the link of this video for you guys. But anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry I don't have an outro for you today, but I was in a rush. I had to get out of there because I needed to deliver the Disney Dodger cake. Don't forget to drop a comment down below and look out for a video coming up next. It is going to be another baking video. Bye guys, I will see you next time.
Okay, now he does.
He's right here. He's in the kitchen.
Give him the hand. No, that'll be quick. We'll see how this goes.
Go.
He's not just a minute.
Happy birthday, dear Pedro. Happy birthday to